The living room was full of chatter, laughter, and the faint aroma of roasted chicken drifting in from the kitchen. It was one of those family gatherings that seemed ordinary at first. People squeezed onto couches, kids running around the coffee table, uncles arguing about football, and my mom fussing about whether there were enough side dishes on the dining table. But as ordinary as it started, the night was about to become unforgettable. My name is Ethan Miller, and this is a story I never thought I'd be telling. At the time, I thought it was just another Sunday dinner at my parents' house in Ohio, a simple get-together before the work week started. My family gatherings were usually predictable. Dad made his classic jokes that only he laughed at, my sister Rachel teased me about being single, and my cousin Jordan always arrived late with some excuse about traffic. But that night, something happened in the middle of our laughter that left us in stunned silence, and what followed afterward changed how I looked at my family forever. It started when Rachel decided to play one of her infamous truth games. She always had this mischievous streak, and over the years, she had turned harmless conversations into moments that bordered on uncomfortable. But she claimed it was her way of getting the family to be more real with one another. "Okay," Rachel said, clapping her hands as everyone settled around the table. "Before we eat, let's do something fun. We'll go around and everyone has to answer one personal question honestly." Groans filled the room immediately. Uncle Mark muttered, "Not this again," while my younger cousin Megan giggled like she was ready for the drama. Dad leaned back in his chair and shook his head. "Rachel, can't we just eat dinner like normal people? Normal is boring," she shot back with a smirk. "Come on, just one question each. I'll start." I should have known something would go wrong the moment she leaned forward with that sly grin. She looked around the table, scanning us like she was choosing her target. And then, with zero hesitation, she asked Aunt Linda the question that froze the room. "Linda," Rachel said, "is it true you once almost ran away from Uncle Mark before you two got married?" The fork in Linda's hand clattered against her plate. The table fell into silence. Uncle Mark stiffened in his chair. It was awkward, uncomfortably awkward, the kind of silence where you could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Nobody knew where Rachel had even heard that. Aunt Linda's cheeks flushed pink. She cleared her throat, glanced at Uncle Mark, and finally said, "That's not exactly how it happened." I wanted to melt into my seat. I couldn't believe Rachel had asked that in front of everyone. Even the kids stopped running around and stood still, sensing the tension in the air. Uncle Mark narrowed his eyes. "Where did you hear something like that, Rachel?" Rachel shrugged, unfazed. "I heard Mom talking about it once when she thought no one was listening." Now the attention shifted to my mom, who looked like she wanted to sink under the table. Dad tried to break the tension with an awkward chuckle, but it didn't work. What happened next shocked us all. Aunt Linda let out a long sigh and said, "Well, since it's out there, yes." "I almost did." Gasps circled the table. Uncle Mark looked like someone had punched him in the gut. I saw my cousin Jordan's eyes widen, while Megan put her hand over her mouth. "Wait, you're serious?" Uncle Mark asked, his voice low. Linda nodded slowly. "It was years ago, before the wedding. I was young, scared, and I didn't know if I was ready. I thought about leaving." She paused, taking a deep breath. "But I didn't. I stayed. And we've built a life together." The tension was unbearable. It felt like the walls themselves were listening. Uncle Mark pushed his chair back and stood. "I can't believe this is how I'm finding out." Aunt Linda reached for his hand, but he pulled away, pacing near the dining room doorway. The rest of us sat frozen, unsure whether to speak or stay quiet. Rachel, who had caused the whole storm, suddenly didn't look so amused anymore. But that was just the beginning. After dinner fell apart, everyone lingered in the living room, whispering in small groups. My parents argued quietly in the kitchen. Rachel avoided eye contact with everyone. Uncle Mark eventually went outside for air, and Aunt Linda followed him. I went upstairs to get away from the tension, but what I overheard from the backyard changed everything. Through the open window, I could hear Uncle Mark's voice. "You should have told me," he said, his tone a mix of anger and hurt. "I didn't think it mattered after all these years," Linda replied softly. "I chose you. Doesn't that count for something?" There was a long pause. Then, in a voice that cracked, Uncle Mark said, "I don't know what to believe anymore." It was a moment that could have broken them. But instead, that night set off a chain of conversations, confessions, and emotions that none of us expected. Because in the days that followed, the family dynamic shifted. Secrets we thought were buried surfaced. Tensions that had simmered quietly for years boiled over. And somehow, Through it all, we came out stronger, or at least more honest. The truth is, that awkward moment forced us to face things we'd all been avoiding. It made us realize that even family, especially family, has cracks beneath the surface. And sometimes, it takes one uncomfortable question to bring everything into the light.